Hello, and welcome back to a brief tour of LIDA. I'm Steve Strain, a researcher from the CCRG at the University of Memphis. In our last video, we quickly reviewed a broad range of fields that have contributed ideas to the modern concept of mind. We then pointed out that there is no consensus on what is meant by the term mind, and we then asked, what are the appropriate boundaries for a scientific study of mind? Today we will look at the way in which the LIDA model of cognition addresses this question. Specifically, we will discuss LIDA's answer to the question, what is mind? As suggested previously, there's no single answer agreed upon by all. In order to formulate a concept of mind most suitable for our research at the Cognitive Computing Research Group, or CCRG, we have found it crucial to establish what kinds of entities can have minds. For this, we look to the 1997 paper of Stan Franklin and Art Gracer entitled, Is it an Agent or Just a Program? A Taxonomy for Autonomous Agents. We call an entity with a mind an autonomous agent, which we define as follows. A system situated in and part of an environment that senses that environment and acts on it over time in pursuit of its own agenda so as it may affect what it senses in the future. This brief definition is loaded, and we will repeatedly refer back to it in future tours as we try to unpack it. It turns out that many of the details of the LIDA model relate back to it in some way. For now, we'll just comment that an agent defined in this way may be either biological, such as an octopus or a human being, or artificial, such as a robot or a software agent. Please note that many others may interpret and use the term autonomous agent in different ways than we do here. One reviewer of a paper we wrote interpreted the term to imply the existence of free will, a philosophical debate on which the LIDA model itself has no comment. So we want to be clear that when we refer to an autonomous agent, we mean nothing more and nothing less than is expressed in this definition. Now that we have an operational concept for what kinds of things can have minds, we can give our working definition of mind as a control structure for an autonomous agent. By control structure, we mean any and all mechanisms and processes which determine the behavior of the agent. Now, this way of defining mind has a potential problem. For instance, depending on how concepts such as sensation are defined, one could argue that a thermostat meets the criteria for being an autonomous agent. So are we saying that a thermostat has a mind? However, since we aren't in the least bit interested in modeling thermostats, we make no claims about them, and we tend to ignore this kind of question. As we hope to convince you in what follows, there are many ways in which our definition helps us progress towards what might be called an architectural understanding of mind. Its purpose is to help us analyze and build minds, not to figure out whether or not something is or has a mind. To provide a better handle on such a broad topic, we break this definition down to the equivalence of mind with the process that answers the question, what do I do next? Notice that in general, an agent's mind does not necessarily need to be able to ask this question, but it must implicitly, quote-unquote, answer the question by deciding the next behavior of the agent at each point in time. This property of iterative behavior selection forms the basis for a core concept in LIDA known as the cognitive cycle. In terms of the autonomous agent definition, the cognitive cycle can be thought of as everything that happens in the agent's control structure to produce its next action. However, there's much more to say about LIDA's cognitive cycle, and we'll come back for a closer look in a later video. In our next video, we'll look at the LIDA model's goals and overall approach. What exactly do we hope to accomplish? A detailed answer will have to wait until the next video, but in brief, LIDA provides a language that gives us elements for describing mental processes in what might be called microscopic detail, as well as an architecture for fitting those elements together into a dynamic cognitive system. The endpoint we hope for is an understanding of minds that is good enough to allow us to simulate biological minds and to design better artificial software agents and robots. Thanks for listening. We hope you're interested in finding out more about how LIDA works. If so, stay tuned for a continuing discussion in the next video.